Hello and welcome to episode 48 of Design Curious Podcast. I'm your host and mentor, Rebecca Ward. Today on the podcast, we have a virtual bookkeeper and CFO who definitely is probably one of the first people you're going to need to hire for your business if you're going out on your own. It's an extremely important role, and it's not one that you usually can cover all by yourself. You can do a little bit of the day-to-day, but you really should hire a bookkeeper first thing when you're starting out a business to help keep you in order, keep track of your revenue, your profits, because profitability is really just the main thing about a business. If you're not making money, then why are you in business, right? Unless you're a nonprofit. So we're going to talk to LoriAnn in a little bit, but before I tell you a little more about her, I want to remind you that my design mentor is taking on students for the summer. I'd love to see you in there. We have some great discussions going on and a lot of content for you to consume to really get you on your feet as an interior designer. So go check out the links for that. I'd love to see you in there with us. And now let me tell you a little more about LoriAnn. LoriAnn is a virtual bookkeeper and fractional CFO for the creative entrepreneur. Her goal is to bridge the gap between traditional accountants and business owners. With 35 plus monthly DFY bookkeeping clients in the industry, she has the insight and experience to help you up-level your business while removing the stress and burden of managing your finances. Whether you're just starting out or you've been in business for years, her mission is to help creatives feel peace about their finances while growing their profit and confidence. So let's hear from LoriAnn. You're now listening to Design Curious, a place where you, creative one, are here to learn about what it really is like to be an interior designer. And I'm your host and mentor, Rebecca Ward. If you're worried about how to succeed in a creative career, if you're ready to learn your next steps to become an interior designer, and if you want the satisfaction of doing something you love every day, you are in the right place. Grab a coffee, a notebook, and let's dig into today's episode. Hi, LoriAnn. Thank you for coming on Design Curious Podcast today.
Hi, I'm so excited. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. So for our audience, let's just talk a little bit about what it is that you do and how you got into that.
Yeah, so I am an owner of basically like a boutique creative bookkeeping firm to where we specialize in done-for-you monthly bookkeeping, fractional CFO work, as well as helping people just getting started off the ground and what they need to do to keep track of their numbers. And kind of backstory is I feel like I have always been a numbers lover. I've always known like I was going to do something with numbers, even from like a very young, like elementary age, like math was always my topic that I loved. And so obviously, of course, what do? You go into an accounting path if you like numbers most of the time. I also had entrepreneurial family members and parents, and I saw from a very young age, finances was a huge part of running a business. And I remember thinking and listening to discussions between my mom and my dad just about finances and running a business and business plans and strategies and stuff like that. But it always was centered around what was happening financially, because without that financial foundation, you can't make good decisions. So I saw that and I was like, that's really good. Like, I really like that. So fast forward, I decided to go down a typical accounting path, be a tax accountant, become a CPA. And after I got my first job at a local CPA firm, I realized I'm like, I hate this. This is not for me.
Yeah.
I didn't as much like hate the tax strategy part, but I did not like seeing clients come in 1 or 2 times a year and we would hurry up, get their taxes filed, and then send them out the door. And they would be like left, like not sure what was going on. And we're like, okay, bye. See you in another 12 months. I didn't feel good about that. People would also come to us at the end of the year. At the time we were recording this podcast, we just came out of tax season. And people would come to us being like, here's a shoebox of receipts, or here's a bunch of random like e-documents of our bank statements. And because I was kind of a newbie in the firm, I would be in charge of like cleaning up the books.
Yeah.
And I was very shocked at how many businesses were running just so blindly because there's such key valuable information in your finances.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, you know what? I want to do that. Like, I want to help the people month to month throughout the year on business, on understanding their finances, on cash flow, how to make strategic decisions. So I left there. I went back and worked for my parents for a few years part-time. That's whenever I had my daughter. She's 3.5. She's almost 4 now. And I started gathering clients on the side. And I really don't know how I got into the space, but I'm where I need to be. I like stumbled in the online space, stumbled in the creative space. So I work with a lot of photographers, brand and web designers, interior designers, a lot of people that have that creative mindset and that creative brain that's amazing. And I love to work with them because that's kind of part of who I am too. Like, I like creative stuff. I like designing or doing a house renovation right now. So all you interior designers, like, I'm loving doing this right now. But a lot of times numbers and finances are very scary and overwhelming. And I want to make it as simple and easy to understand for you and take that just anxiety and that not clear picture and just present it to you in a way that's like pretty and understandable so that you know exactly what's going on instead of feeling all stressed out and anxious whenever you just think about numbers.
Yeah. That's so fun how you just fell into that niche, which is really like a passion for you as well. So I'm sure that comes across when you're helping your clients. So do you do a lot of the bookkeeping work, or you're more in the analysis and pulling reports and like helping the owner understand where their business is going?
Yeah, so I started out to do more of the bookkeeping work. The business is about 3 years old now, and I started out of just mainly doing bookkeeping work. Now we have a team of 6 now, and I have assistant bookkeepers that do a lot of like the data entry and the behind the scenes. And I'm more of like the fractional CFO, and I go in and do analysis and budgeting and projections and stuff. So my job is more so on like the analyzing the finances, but the firm as a whole is like a one big picture.
Okay. So I'm sure that you said you have interior design clients, and so that you see the business is set up a lot of different ways, and there's a lot of like moving parts. And so what do you see specifically about interior designers that might be challenging, or something that they're good at keeping track of, or do you have any like analysis around the industry?
Yeah, I would say designers in general, whether you're online brand web designers, interior designers, most of the time I see them start doing a side hustle.
Okay.
And then they move into leaving their corporate job or their job that they're designing for somebody else. So they start this side hustle and they are just like, and it's just going to be a little bit here and there. And they don't prioritize their business and treat their business like a business. I would say is the biggest thing that I see is that they don't treat their boundaries like a business between them and their clients. They don't treat their finances like a business. They don't have separate bank accounts. They're not having systems set up. They're not budgeting and projecting and really diving into those numbers. A lot of times because they're scared too, and they don't know what they're doing. And then those things get pushed aside. And then all of a sudden you're like, hey, you know what? I want to leave my corporate job. And that's now your sole income. And you really need to be honing in on those finances because that's what's providing the life that you want to live and the things that you need to survive. I think it comes back to my first point of just like, it's not taking your business like a business and treating it, whether you have one client right now or you have 50 clients you're working with.
Yeah. And I think most designers, when they're starting their own business, they're starting out as a solopreneur and they don't have employees or anything like that. But I believe solidly, like the first person that you're going to need to hire, even if you think you can't afford it, would be like a bookkeeper, just because that is an area where you don't want to have any mess ups. Like you need to get it right.
Yeah.
You got to pay your taxes, and sales tax if you're doing product and things like that. So that's just really valuable offering that you can give to interior designers, especially starting out. So do you like offer full-time bookkeeping or just as needed?
Yeah. It first comes back to the conversation is, okay, a lot of people are like, okay, well, do you do our taxes? What's a tax accountant? What's a tax strategist? What's a bookkeeper? And why do I need to have a bookkeeper if I have an accountant filing my taxes at the end of the year? And I kind of, whenever I was introducing myself, I kind of went into a little bit of what we do is we're with you throughout the whole year instead of just at the end of the year, which is a lot of what tax accountants do. They're with you at the end of the year. They file taxes, they push you out the door. And so then you need to figure out your finances, whether you're doing it yourself or you have a bookkeeper do it. And I 100% agree. I think having a bookkeeper on your team from the very beginning is great. Not everyone has that opinion. And I'm just over here like, okay. I'll just like, of course, I'm going to say I'm one of the first hires because that's what I do. But it is very important because finances and numbers is the foundation that you base all of the rest of your hires off of. So if you're going to bring on top employees, you need to know what your numbers are saying.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what your numbers are saying, then you're just completely operating your business on feelings and what you think your business is doing. And that can be something we talk about too, because it's a whole thing about just running your business off of what you feel like you're doing, how you feel your business is doing. But as far as our services, our main service is monthly bookkeeping services, to where we go in once a month, do your bookkeeping, record all of your invoices, all your income, all of your expenses in a very customized and easy to understand document and PDF for you, so that we can give you the reports like, hey, look, this is what's going on in your business. Again, it's very customized to you. My interior design clients, their profit and loss and the balance sheet looks different because they have different business models and they want to see things differently. So you get those reports to you. You also get like a simplified summary email saying what's going on. You get a Loom video walking you through those reports because communication and understanding is really big for us. And with that, you also get like access to me and to Voxer with your bookkeeping team, and just to be able to, anytime you have any type of question, or if you're like feeling something about your numbers, you open them up and you're like, this is awesome. Like, what am I supposed to do now? Or, oh no, what am I supposed to do now? Like type of like, oh no, that's not really what I wanted to see. And we're there to walk you through it. So that's our main service. And it's a month to month. And then obviously we do other types of services for people that are just starting out. We have like one-time strategy setup sessions, and then people that need budgeting and projections and all that type of stuff. We have like an elevated service too.
Yeah, really good. Okay. So let's go back to that feeling with the finances. So sometimes business owners, I think they're very subjective to the immediate project they're working on, or some other factors. They might hear something in the news and all of a sudden they're panicked about the state of their business. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's something that I've been talking a lot more about. I would say it's always very important, but right now, especially, people are like worried about the economy. What's that going to do? What's it going to do in the creative industry, which is the people I serve? And so between that and then the fact that here, like in the United States, most of the time we don't have education. Like, it comes from little up. You don't get educated on how to manage your money, how to budget, how to file your taxes. And I think that's something that's kind of the school system's fault, just like little up. I do see it changing a little bit. Like, some states have rolled out like it's mandatory for personal finance classes in high school and stuff. But I think that's where it begins. Also, what type of parents did you have? Did they freely and openly talk about money with you? Did they openly talk about money too much to where you were stressed out about money as a kid? I think that's something too. So you kind of have to go back to just like your mindset around money and where that came from. And that's like a scary thing sometimes to do. But then you go into your business and you're starting to do all the different things, wear all the different hats, and you can get so caught up in, like you said, in one project or something like that, that you just kind of let finances slide. And then all of a sudden you look at your bank account and it's like, where did all the money go? And then you start feeling down about your business. And then you make a sale and bring on another client. And you feel excited about your business. So let's make a bunch of buy a bunch more stuff. And I know for me, like there's weeks that I just don't feel great about my business. Like, I'm like, it's just not doing super great. I don't have a lot of leads. So that kind of, well, if I just operate off of that impacts the type of decisions I make. And then if I sign a bunch of new clients, like, oh yeah, I could invest in this. I could have my website redesigned. But then I have to think about, but what are the finances saying? What is the number saying in order to do those decisions? And also not even just looking at your bank account balance. So many people run their business off of what's in their bank account.
Yeah.
And there's so much more than just that. So much more, because you could have a credit card bill that of the stuff that you paid for 2 months ago or a month ago hit, and then you all of a sudden have a $10,000 credit card bill, and it's like, well, I don't have the money. And then you get in that swing of things, or you have a lot of money but you forget that you have bills coming up and then you decide to spend all that money. And then when the bills come, there's no money.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff there.
There is a lot that comes up, I think, especially for designers, because we're dealing with our own money mindset issues as well as our clients' issues. So some
Mhm.
have no problem writing you a check for $10,000, and others are like, well, show me exactly what I'm getting for this money. Or they have a history of, being not very liberal with their money, and they're very cautious about spending it, or they're just more liberal with it. And so even putting our own issues onto the client and being like, well, I wouldn't spend $10,000 on a sofa, but they want to, so like not holding the client back from spending that money and things like that. So that all gets wrapped up into business, I think,
Yeah, especially like you were saying, like with interior designers, that you're spending your client's money. Like
Yeah.
you're the one that's like, well, here's this and this, we piece these things together, and you're spending your client's money, and they might value one thing over the other. And it's, in a way, it's kind of like what I do. Like I have to work with each of my individual clients because we're talking about their money,
Mm-hmm.
and every one of my clients is so different. We have to figure out what type of mindset they have around money and
Mm-hmm.
just cater towards them. And I have to let my mindset around money just get shifted back because
Mm-hmm.
how they might want to run their business might be different than what I see and would think would be a good idea. And obviously in advisory situations, I do give my opinion because they are paying me for it.
Right.
But yeah, it's kind of like you have to see and work with each individual client and kind of like let yourself go on what you think the
Mm-hmm.
client should be spending on certain things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I think one of the more common issues, and you had brought this up before, that interior designers that in our industry, and it's starting to change a little bit, but that we don't value our talent and our skill as much as
Mm-hmm.
we should. So we're undercharging or, and different things like that, or not taking the businesses seriously because we would do this for a hobby, but we're doing it for a living,
Yeah. I have a client right now that she's been on with me for probably, I don't know, probably 4 months now. I think she started at the beginning of the year, and we're working through that
Mm-hmm.
exactly as she came on, and I'm like, what are you charging? And she's charging by hour,
Yeah.
and she's charging a very low rate. And I'm like, you realize that you could, if you're going to charge by hour, like if you want to give your like charge by hour instead of by project, you could be timing that by 5 or 6 and you could still be getting clients. She's like, are you serious? And I'm like, yes. And we're still working through it. It's still
Uh-huh.
again with like her money mindset, like we're still working through that. But yeah, it's the whole, even just like pricing is just a complete, there's so much to unpack there because like you said, a lot of people are like, I would do this for a hobby. I mean, I would do this for a hobby. I love
Mm-hmm.
doing it. I love designing houses, and doing renovations and stuff, picking out different accent pieces and everything. So it's kind of like coming back to your business is so supporting you. Your business
Mm-hmm.
is giving you what you want in your vision for your life. And when that's like your main source of income, then you got to pay attention to the numbers. I read a statistic this morning. I think it was either 65 or 85%. So don't quote me on this, but 65 or I think it was 85 because it was high. 85% of female business owners claim that their business is their sole income or the main income of their life in their household. And that was really like shocking to me because I feel like there's a lot of people doing side hustles and they might have like a main full-time job. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, 85% of female owned businesses, like that's their main source of income. I'm like, we got to be like taking charge of it and taking ownership of our
Yeah.
finances.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think it's that transition. Well, and I don't know, like historically, female business owners, like what kind of examples we've had, if we've had a lot in the last, couple decades, but just even women coming out of the workplace and owning their own businesses, like it's just a different mindset, like going from being an employee to being your own boss, and the one you're getting paid an hourly wage. And so you can't, like, if you're getting paid $30 an hour, you can't go out into your business and charge $30 an hour because there's so much more
Yeah.
overhead and stuff that you got to cover and account for. And then you're not charging, if you do hourly, you're not charging typically for a full 40 hours a week or more, So it's just, I guess there's business school. There's that transition that
Mhm.
oftentimes I think that the bookkeeper or the fractional CFO, like yourself, that you provide can help a business owner transition. Because most of the time they're not going into business because they want to have a business, is because of the craft that they want to do. And then
Mhm.
having their own business is just a way to facilitate that and give them autonomy. So
Yeah, and I would say especially with creatives and interior designers too, like they don't go into it because they love the numbers. They don't love the business side of things. They go into
yeah.
it because they want to create and design and have kind of the freedom and the choice and flexibility of owning your own business. But the business side of things can be a little bit hard
Mm-hmm.
and hard to transition out because you're so right. Like if you're coming from a job to where that you're designing at, they're paying you $30 per hour. But like your example, you can't go out and charge someone like $30 for your work because you have to pay taxes. So there's 25%. Then
Mm-hmm.
you have insurance. There's however much. And then you have any subscriptions, any software, any thing that you're using to run your business.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just so much extra cost to having your own business that you need to factor that into. And I like the point that you brought up about having examples of like just women owned businesses.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me. It was 1974 when a woman could get her own credit card.
No, I
Before
know.
then,
This
we
is
couldn't get it.
crazy.
And so that's not
Yeah.
that long ago. And so from where we've been since 1974 to 2022, it's shifted so much.
Yeah.
And the statistic for this year, I think it's like 47, again, me not having exact, but it's like 45 to 47% of businesses are female owned in the US right now. And that's crazy to me because like 1974, we couldn't have a credit card and we're
Yeah.
having a business owner. So we
Yeah.
go from like not being able to get a house, not being able to get any loans or a credit card to being able to shift into, hey, the females and women can actually manage finances and money to own almost 50% of the businesses.
Mm-hmm.
So in the last couple of decades, like it's the societal standpoint of women being in finances has completely shifted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And so we don't have a lot of those role models, I think. And
Mm-hmm.
now they're starting to come up, and be really more present, but there's just not a long history of it. Now little girls will have these examples going forward, and their moms have always been able to have a credit card, but like my mom couldn't unless her husband signed on it or her dad or something. So yeah, I had found that out like last year or the year before when I saw that statistic, and I was like, Mom, is this true? Like you weren't able to have a credit card like when you were young? It just blew my mind and how far we've come, which is great. And partly the fact that I'm bringing up, female-owned business because the majority of interior designers are females. And so that's just great information and just something to think about, like having these examples. And so now we are the ones that can set that example for future businesses. And so that's kind of exciting.
It does. It gets me excited because my daughter, she asked me this morning, it's like, Mom, can I have a computer and a desk and a chair like you? And can I work with you? And I'm like,
Oh.
maybe one day you can come work with me. And I don't know, being able to provide that of having my daughter look up to me and be like, okay, mom can run a business and have a team and be very present with me and be able to come to all my school events and do all this stuff with me. It's very exciting for me to be able to have my daughter be able to see that and other like kids that are in my life too.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Both my daughter and my son get to see that as well. Cause I'm there to pick them up a couple days a week. Sometimes my husband does it. And it's just like a new way of showing them how you can work. And especially, within a post pandemic world too, where everyone's can work virtually. And it's just really changed a lot recently. So they're seeing a lot of new examples come through, I think.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay, so going back to the services that you provide and how you can advise people, would you say that designers starting out in their own company, do they need both a bookkeeper and an accountant?
Yeah, I would say the dream team is to have a bookkeeper and an accountant because your accountant's your tax person. So I know tax, I understand it, I can help advise on tax stuff, but they're the ones that are taking all these extra CPE classes. They're getting updates with all these random year to year tax change laws, everything like that. They're the specialist in tax. Whereas I am the specialist in getting every single transaction documented and analyzing every single penny and where it's going and how it's performing and managing the cash flow and things like that. I like to think about accountants and bookkeepers as doctors. So all of us, we have like the normal pre-med, like typical education. Like we started out, we have the same knowledge base. But then people will branch off and be a pediatrician, or they'll be a family doctor, or they'll be a neurologist or a cardiologist, and they all work together. So you might have one problem or one patient to where you need a cardiologist and a surgeon or whatever it might be, to where they work together and they understand the human body and they can come up with a game plan together, but one can't perform its job without the other.
Yeah.
You might have an accountant that you go to and they're trying to do it all, but 9 times out of 10, if they're crunching and trying to do your bookkeeping at the end of the year, they're missing things. It's not reported for your understanding. It's only reported for the to file taxes and then they're done.
Yeah.
And so that's most of the time what's happened. And then if you have a bookkeeper that does all of your numbers and everything and has your bookkeeping done, well, then who's filing the taxes? And you could file taxes, but I highly recommend if you have a business to have someone else file the taxes for you.
Yeah. Especially once you get like incorporated and have another level of things that you can do. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I will say, like, when you're first starting out, hiring a bookkeeper might not be in budget. And I have that discussion with some potential clients if they're like, like that's just a lot of money. I don't think I can afford it. And there are other options. Like I'll just put out there's other options. We can figure out a way to help you understand your numbers. The biggest thing is helping you know what's coming in, what's going out. And then when you get to the point to where you can afford to bring on a monthly bookkeeper, then great, we can do that. But I'm not here to you have to hire it right away. And then it just puts your business more into the ground.
Right.
And I don't think any bookkeeper should be doing that at all. They should be looking at your finances, and if it's detrimental to your business, then come up with a different game plan.
Do you have a specific software that you recommend for people to start out on?
Yeah, if you're just starting out, so you just started your business, even if you've been in business for a year or two and are like DIYing your books, I highly recommend a spreadsheet. The reason why is because softwares like QuickBooks Online or Xero, they have a lot of accounting background that's happening. And if you don't have a basis knowledge of what accounting is and debits and credits and journal entries and balance sheets and how things flow together, it can very quickly be inaccurate and things can get messed up. So then your reports that you're running your business off of are not accurate. So the easiest method, and you don't have to pay for a monthly subscription. You pay it one time, you get a spreadsheet, and you can utilize that for however long until you get to the point that you want to outsource. Okay. Hands down, spreadsheet's the way to go.
Is that something that would someone just set up their own spreadsheet, or are there pre-filled out kind of categories and things that they can get from somewhere, like a template or something like that?
Yeah. I mean, you can obviously create your own spreadsheet, but a lot of times you open up a Google Sheet document or a sheet, and then you open up an Excel sheet and it's too overwhelming because it's just a bunch of little boxes. Right. I have a digital product shop. So there's a personal budget template, a business budget template, and then a DIY bookkeeping template in there. And I'm continually adding to it. That's where everything's filled out. It calculates your estimated taxes for you, has a goal tracker. It has charts and graphs in there to where visually you can see your numbers. And a lot of things are pre-filled to basically you just enter in here's your expenses, here's your income, and then everything auto-populates for you. And the whole spreadsheet is aesthetically pleasing because
good.
It's not like your uncle's spreadsheet that's really random and just not really pretty. So I made it really pretty.
As pretty as a spreadsheet could be.
It's pretty pretty.
Oh, awesome. So those are resources that listeners could go and download or purchase for themselves if they're getting started out.
Yep. You can go to my website and it's under the marketplace.
Perfect. Okay. Well, I'll add links for that because I think that'll be a good resource for people just who don't even know where to start. So that's good. And because I know when I started out on QuickBooks, I had someone or at least set up all of the categories, like so it could translate into taxes at the end of the year, because that's really complicated.
For sure. And I would say if you're going to use a software, that's the way to go. If you're going to DIY it, don't try to set it up on your own. We have done setups and help people get things go like set up right, because that's a big part of it. So if you're going to use the software, have someone help you set up and train you in it, and then you'll be good to go, at least until your accountant can review it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you did a good choice there.
Good. Yeah, I was in a networking group, and as I was getting started, and there was an accountant in there, and she was like, "Oh, you have to do this. Like, you have to have someone else set it up. You can't just like go in willy-nilly into QuickBooks." So yeah, and since then, I've transitioned to using Studio Designer, and there's a lot of other industry-specific accounting software for interior designers. Would you work with any of them, or do you particularly work on QuickBooks, or what is?
Yeah. We primarily use Xero in QuickBooks.
Okay.
That's our preference. And I see this in a lot of different industries. There's a lot of CRMs and client management places that you can go. And then they try to build inside of that an accounting software. And most of the time, 9 times out of 10, I haven't been inside of yours specifically. So I don't know what that one looks like. But most of the ones that I've been inside that they have an quote unquote accounting portion of it, it's not giving the insight that I want to be able to provide to my clients. And it's just limiting what we could do and what we could provide to them. So usually we use QuickBooks or Xero, and most of the time that links to whatever client management software that you're using to where it like talks back and forth and it integrates well. But those are the two that I prefer. And out of those two, I prefer Xero.
Okay. I'm not familiar with that one, so it'll be good to check out. Yeah.
It's also QuickBooks just they do really good at marketing their software.
Right.
But their customer support is horrible. It's like not there. The amount of times I've been on hold for hours and hours, it just kind of was like, that's enough. And they're amazing to work with. They have great customer support, and they're like a third of the price of QuickBooks. So
that's great. Yeah. Good. Okay. All right. Well, where can people find you if they want to reach out to you about your services?
Yeah, so you can find me at my website. It's LoriAnnKuntz.com, and my Instagram is LoriAnnKuntz.co.
Okay, great. I'll check that out. And any last words of advice for potential creative or designer who's looking to start their own business?
Yeah, I think the best piece of advice I could give you is that you're able to understand your numbers, and you are completely capable of being able to look at them and analyze them and know what's going on. And no matter if you've had like any type of education or training from just little up in finance management and managing your numbers and your money, you are 100% capable of doing that. It might just take a little bit of digging and a little bit of time to educate yourself. And we're all still learning how to manage our money better.
So good. Well, thank you so much, LoriAnn. It was a great time talking with you today on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Such a helpful conversation. And I know from talking with other designers and other creatives that really the finances, the bookkeeping, and keeping it all straight is not usually a forte of creatives. And so they're quite intimidated by the process and making sure that they can keep everything straight and that they're doing everything they need to pay their taxes and stay upright as a company. And so definitely a bookkeeper or a fractional CFO is going to help you with that. And I can't tell you how valuable it is to have all of the information on hand, to have those reports monthly, to keep looking at it and keep evaluating so you know what is working in your business and you know what is not working and what you need to change. So LoriAnn can definitely help you with that. If you'd like to use her services, you can find all of her information in the show notes. And in addition to all of the other great links that you'll find there, like the downloads for people interested in the career of interior design, you'll find those there, as well as information about my design mentor and anything else you want to know about the podcast. So check that out. And next week, we have an episode from me, yours truly, and I'm talking about perfectionism, which is definitely a struggle for a lot of creatives and designers. And so we're going to talk all about that next week. So stay tuned for that. And until then, stay creative. Thanks for listening. If you love this episode, please leave a rating and a review. This helps me reach other curious creatives like you. If you have a topic request or would like to contact me, simply head over to my website, rwarddesign.com, or email me at podcast@rwarddesign.com.